Hi, Com 130, Sister Peterson. This is section 18. We're doing a draft critique. I already did section, no, this is section 9. I'm doing a draft critique. I just did section 16, 18, whatever sections I have left. So I'm going to have to make this quick because I have a lot of videos to make with my different sections. But let's go ahead and go through this real quick. It's going to be first like impressions and go through and critique it. I highly suggest you do make any adjustments that I critique because those will be things I'm looking for in grades. And then if I say this is an optional like suggestion, it means you won't be marked off for it. If I say like you can do that, I just suggest it'll make it better. Sorry, I'm not actually sharing my screen. That's what I would. So unless I tell you it's optional, then I would strongly advise fixing it. Also, you can email me if you make any adjustments and you want me to look at it one more time before you turn it in. I'd be happy to do that, and you can email it over. So, Rob, we'll start with you. I was trying to. Okay. Sorry, there's a lot to read. Hold on. Okay. Sorry, that was a little confusing what you were trying to say there. But we'll go through this real quick. Let me just look over it. Oh, and we're going to do it in the order that you posted. So right here, you can kind of see the order that I'll critique it in, okay? And find your name. You can skip ahead. You can watch things. Usually in the first critique, if I need to show things, I'll do that, or I'll direct you to a critique to make adjustments so I don't have to show it over and over again, okay? All right, so Rob, you're up. Sorry, I'm just going to look over first and kind of see what's going on here. Okay. All right, so great consistency. I like that your subtitles all look the same. Your body copy is very consistent. You chose some great contrasting fonts there. And I like that you've kind of included them throughout the piece. Sorry, excuse me. So first things first, when you're placing text inside of a box, you want to be consistent with your spacing. So you see how there's little space here, but there's like extra space down here or more space over here. You want to keep your spacing very consistent when you're putting it inside boxes. So this spacing and this spacing and this spacing and this spacing should be close to the same. Same here. Like, or you could do top and bottom and right and left the same. So right here, this spacing and this spacing should be the same, and this spacing and this spacing should be the same. So try and definitely put your text inside of the box and keep spacing consistent on the sides, okay? Also, there's a little too much space between the title here. They need to be grouped together better. So bring the title up here. I almost feel like on this one, it would be much more effective if you brought by Sherry Dew and align it on this side right here. So will you engage in wrestling by Sherry Dew right underneath there. I like the contrast in size there. That looks really nice. But yeah, definitely group them together better and then put all of the text directly in the center of the box. All right, and then careful of tangents. See how this text is really too close to the box there? Give it plenty of space. This is creating some tension, and we call that a tangent. All right, so just bring your text box down a little bit more. Sorry, excuse me. I feel like your color scheme was working well. The colors all look nice together, so great job on that. You have hyphens in here. So Dashes are okay, but hyphens are not. So how you can remove your hyphens, oops, sorry, I have my article that I just made because I did this with you guys. I worked on the project too as well. So I can kind of do this with you and make sure I'm always familiar and up to date with the projects. So anyways, hyphens. So go into your project, highlight your text. So if you just click in your text box and Control A on a PC or Command A on a Mac will select everything in your text box. Come to the paragraph option. So come to the top tool palette, come to the paragraph option right here, and then there's a button here that says hyphenate. That will be checked. You uncheck that, and that gets rid of all your hyphens on there, okay? So that's nice. And then you have a widow. So go through, especially after you hyphenate, go through and check. A widow is a word on a line by itself. Oh my gosh. First I'm coughing, now I have the hiccups. And so you have a couple of widows here that you need to clean up. And how you can get rid of widows is if you just highlight that one paragraph and again, come to the paragraph. Oh, sorry, this is the character palette actually. So the A, click on the A, and then increase or decrease your tracking, okay? So your tracking will be at 0 right here. So you could either click up once and see if that helps get rid of your widow, or click down once and see if that helps get rid of your widow. See where you're at. Sometimes you have to click twice. I would never go more than twice, either up or down, okay? Otherwise, if you go like 30, it starts to look obvious that you're doing it. I mean, not so bad. You could get away with one extra click, but try to avoid it if you can. Never do 4 clicks. It's starting to get really obvious. You can tell the difference between this paragraph and this paragraph. And you don't want them to look different. You want them to be consistent. But that's one way to get rid of widows, or just going in there and adjusting your text box, you know, just a little bit can help you get rid of widows too. Okay. So go in there and clean up your widows. You also need to separate your paragraphs. This is a typography rule. So see how my paragraphs have a space after each paragraph? That's an option, or you can do an indent. And again, if you click in here, Command A to select everything, you can come to your paragraph option, and you could either do this one where it's drawing an arrow to a box, and if you hover over it, it says space before, and this is what it normally looks like. This is what yours looks like. If you just click up twice, you only need to do twice. It gives you enough space after, or click down. No, don't click down. Sorry, click up twice. That's your only option. Or this one will work too as well if you click up twice. So either one of these will give you space in between. So that's one option. Or the other option is you can do first line indent right here. So if you click twice with that, it indents the first line. Okay? So those are the rules. Now, one thing to remember on this, you never want to first line indent your first paragraph. So if you do decide to do the indent, make sure you highlight from the top, from the second paragraph, and highlight everything all the way down to your first subtitle. And then again, don't indent the first paragraph, go to the next and highlight all the way to your next subtitle, and then do the indent, and then go to your next paragraph. So never highlight, never at first indent the first paragraph underneath each title. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions. So break up those paragraphs, remove the hyphens, get rid of the widows. That's where we're at so far. Careful of stretched images. So do you see how this image is kind of out of proportion? That means you didn't hold shift when resizing. So always make sure when you're resizing an image, click on an image, go to the corners, never go from here or here, because even if you hold shift here, it'll still stretch the image. So only go from the edges and hold shift while you're resizing. Let go of your mouse first and then let go of the shift button. Because even if you're resizing, and you let go of shift first, it'll actually still skew it out of proportion. See how we still lost proportion there. Biggest pet peeve of Sister Peterson's and many instructors is stretched images, because that's an easy fix. So I would just delete that image, replace it in, and hold shift when you're resizing it, okay? Okay. And your quote looks great in there. I would maybe get rid of the stroke around it right there. And it might be that your text box just has a stroke on it. And so what I would do is I just go like click on the actual text box. And if there is color right there, come up to this section and then just hit none for the stroke. Okay. And so you just have those curved lines. And then make this just a little bit smaller. There's space here. That's why the quotes are going the wrong way. So take that space out of there so that the quotes are going the right direction. And make that a little smaller so it's not too close to the edge and creating tangents. But it looks like it's very nicely centered in there. So good job on that. Gosh, the spacing looks a little weird. I don't know why. Extra space here and not as much here. Are you justifying the text in there? I double check that. Make sure it's not justified. That's just center line, because you have some weird spacing going on, some weird rivers and valleys in here, which means that there's weird extra awkward space in between, okay? So check that out. And then careful with your subtitles that your text isn't too close to the edge there. So double check that. Just write out continue right there. And I think that's pretty much it. Your image is a little large for the text wrap. See how it's invading 2/3 of the columns there? So give it a little bit extra space between those and make the image just a little bit smaller, okay? So that it's not invading 2/3 of the column. That's only invading 1/3 of the column on either side. That will make it easier to read. I feel like you had a question about text wrap. If you post here. Tried a few times. I'm sorry, I'm really confused at what you're asking here. I eventually said forget it and made the picture smaller so I could wrap around it. Go around the body copy and the background off. Yeah, I'm really confused at what you're asking there. But your text wrap around the image is just fine. If you're trying to go around the body, that's what you're saying. You can watch my video. I made a video on how to kind of bring it close to the body, the box, and have the image go around. So you can watch that video on how I went about doing this one. And then you can always put it too in the shape and have the text go around it. Either one, or this is just fine too. Just make the image smaller. So hopefully that answers your question, Rob. But other than that, everything's looking good. Colors are looking great. Your body copy is consistent. Your text is looking a little squished there. Make sure you're keeping your text in proportion too as well. Not resizing it and losing that proportion, okay? Keep the text always the same proportions that it's supposed to be. Okay. Okay, Susan just is putting a dot there. She doesn't want critique. She just doesn't want the discussion board interfering. And that's okay. I'm struggling in the colors. I also. Okay, that sounds good. Okay. All right. Let me zoom out. But let me zoom out. Come on. Where's my... There they are. Okay. I don't know how that got like that. but let's just go ahead and zoom out. Okay. Be therefore perfect eventually. I love this talk, actually. Okay. So not loving the colors. I know you mentioned that. It looks like you're doing blue and yellow color scheme here. If you're not loving your colors, one thing I strongly suggest doing is going to Google. I do this all the time, and I type in blue. You already have a blue and yellow color scheme going on. And you type in blue, yellow color scheme, and then go to images there. And then I like to look through the color schemes and see if I like anything or anything stands out. Like this, nice. This is a very nice color scheme. I think you would like this color a lot, actually. So you find a color scheme that works, right? Whatever it may be. Let's just go with that other one. Like this one's a very nice one. Okay, you grab this and you either save it to your desktop or just drag it onto your desktop, right? And then pull up your article and grab the color scheme and place it in there. And then you can come over here and grab like a shape that you've created and the eyedropper, and you probably have the color theme tool on top. So if you just click, hold, and drag, the eyedropper tool will be underneath it, and you can just grab onto that. So you have this selected. Come to your color scheme. Oops, I have the wrong thing on top. Let me just make sure that's on top. My swatch tool. And anyways, eyedrop colors rather than an eyedropping. Oops, that's why. Sorry, I had something locked. I had that shape locked. So anyways, grab a shape that's not locked, and then you can just eyedrop from your thing, and then it'll change those colors. And then you want the background yellow. You can come over here, select your background, have it be yellow, and that will give you a color scheme. Once you have gone in there and eyedropped all your colors, then you can delete the color scheme that you chose. Just remove it up. But that's how I honestly, sometimes when I'm struggling with colors and finding colors that I like to go together, I just Google color schemes. And you don't even have to do blue and gold. If you want to do like an orange, you have a lot of orange signs there. If you want to help spell it right, orange color scheme, you can do that. And then it gives you a whole bunch of different color schemes, some colors that look good with orange. Like I love this teal with this orange. They look great together. Here's some good orange color schemes. So hopefully that helps you, because I'm with you. The colors are a little bit, there's not any like subtleties with the colors. I'm with you. The colors are just, sorry, I just keep getting the hiccups. Oh my gosh. Okay. Somebody's got to scare me so they go away. But anyways, I'm with you. Like the colors could use a little bit more adjustments. Like you have some really dark values in here, and maybe some lighter values will help. Or using a dark navy blue with a nice pastel yellow would look nice too. So go through, find a color scheme, and then start eyedropping the color into your piece, okay? All right. So great job on your text wrap. Your text is nice and consistent. I like that you added the blue, the pop of blue and the color throughout the pages. That like kind of unifies the whole piece. So there's some great things going on here. I also like that you added some nice contrast, like some contrast in the categories. What I'd suggest, because I feel like be ye therefore perfect, the font that you chose is more like a free-spirited font where the statement's more like be ye therefore perfect. Like that's a bold and straightforward statement. So I would actually make that more of a sans serif font and then have that eventually be more free and script-like. Does that make sense? So I would switch these two fonts and have this be bold, all caps, sans serif font, and then eventually be script. And then, did you see how I played around with my title here with the script? Script. And I talk about this in my video. So watch my video on this title and how I came to the conclusion of how to do this title and aligning it the way I did. Because script is a hard one to align with fonts. But do you see, like this is what I'm thinking that you should do, but have these switch. So have be thee thou perfect in like a font like you have there, the big bold font, and then the scripty font of eventually underneath, okay? And then play around with the separation and then get rid of that line. You could still use the line like for the author to connect with the author, but you don't need a line right underneath there. You want to avoid lines unless they're hand drawn in there, not that you underline the font, because they almost create that tangent fill or that look of this is a link. So I hope that makes sense. And then don't be afraid to do gray and blue too. You don't have to do blue and blue, but I love gray with a pop of color, especially when you're working with script. It looks nice, okay? So like maybe having this part be gray and then eventually having that be the blue, okay? This text is a little too close to the edge here. This is almost creating a barrier, this line here. Instead of having it flow together, you have a black line that's creating a barrier. So if you're going to have these color changes, I'm fine with that. Just remove the dark outline, the black line, because that almost makes me want to stop. Like I'm seeing all these lines and there's nothing leading me to the copy where these colors could flow together versus like having a barrier that stops it. And then again, this text is too close to the edge. I would bring this text box down so it's aligned right here with scriptures are written. So bring it all the way down there. Watch for widows. And I talk about in the first critique how to get rid of widows, some advice on how to get rid of widows. And it looks like you were really good about breaking up the paragraphs except for this one. This one doesn't have a space after the paragraph. So I would go in there and fix that. And then remove all your hyphens. And hyphens, again, if you just highlight your text, go in there. I talk about this in the first critique, but you highlight it, go to the paragraph tab, uncheck the hyphenate button here, okay? You need that walkthrough. Just watch the first critique. I go through that. And then I'd keep your subtitles the same. So this is almost a good size too for your subtitle. Have that be the same size as this subtitle, okay? Be careful when you're working with quotes that they don't break up a middle of a paragraph. I'm okay if it's a brand new paragraph, but do you see how it says God the Eternal Father is, and then am I supposed to go, and Satan has somewhat managed to make covenants, or am I supposed to go here and what we can achieve with him? See how that can be confusing to the reader? You never want to have an image or a quote or anything break up a middle of a paragraph. So one way I avoided that on my magazine spread was I brought the quote to the top, and see it's right here at the top, and then I had an image it on top of an image there. Whoops. And then the next, it's not breaking up any paragraphs. The text is wrapping around it, which is fine, but never have it break up in the middle of the paragraph. So it should never go right in the middle there, so that it's boom, boom, okay? So that's some way of avoiding that. Also, that's why we did too, like if you did a quote box, to have it in the middle of the columns and have the text wrap around it. Okay, so that, and then this is a little too close to the edge here. So end of road work, how it's touching needs. that's creating tension. So I give it plenty of space there so it's not touching it. You can make the image just a little bit smaller. Okay. And I think that's pretty much it. So let me know if you have any questions on it. Make sure your body copy is 12 point or below. You could probably even go 6 point. And then remove the random numbers in there. I have this on my article too. I have to go in there and do it. But when you copy and paste from LDS.org, you get these random numbers in here, which I can't see at the moment, any of mine. I have it right there. There's 3. So I usually go to the end and I find the numbers. So 6. Now I'm looking for 5. I know there's going to be a 5 in here. So you look for the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. But you may have actually already removed the majority of them. You maybe just forgot the 6 there. All right. Please let me know if you have any questions, if that helps, or if you need additional feedback, okay? You're welcome, Jill. I read your message. No problem. Okay, so let me take a look at this, Jill. By Shirley. Okay. Sorry, I'm just going to look at everything real fast. Okay, so you have some great colors on here. I noticed that there's the same colors kind of, yeah, and same kind of color scheme too. The images even have the same tone in them that go throughout the piece and kind of unify the piece. So great job on that. The body copy, there's like nice consistency in the body copy too. And your subtitles all look the same too. So that's great. I'm assuming this is actually for the friends. Just because it looks like it's related to, it's trying to appeal to children. So great job on that, knowing your target. So let me go through and kind of give you some critique. This image, I'm wondering if you can find another image. This is a little bit pixelated. See how you can see the pixels? It's not a large enough image. So I would either go to LDS.org. You can find a lot of large images on LDS.org that they allow you to use as long as you're not using it to sell, which you're not. Or you can even go to Google, picture of Jesus and child. I do like that you kind of did a cartoon look because you have that cartoon image below. Maybe you can even find that same image, but a better quality of that, where it's not so pixelated. And kind of go through and see if you can find, I think this is close to it. But you can see how big it is. See, this is a really small version of it, 334 by 432. That's a little too small. So go through these and see if you can see a larger one. You want at least 1,000 pixels or close to 1,000 pixels. This one's a little bit higher quality, 450 by 600. That might still larger, but if you hit view more on those, you may be able to find some that are bigger. I don't know. This image is not one that seems to be big. Sometimes too, it helps to go to advanced. Sorry, my cats are making a lot of noise right now. Where am I? Oh, tools, settings, search settings. So if you go to search settings here, no, that's not where I want to go. They've kind of changed Google around a little bit. Hold on. Alien images. Oh gosh. I need to make this so it fits my desktop. There we go. I think it's because I honestly, let's go back. It's within that. No. Advanced search. Sorry, that's what I needed to do. So we're back here. Go settings, advanced search. And then come over here and you can, under any sizes, choose large and then hit advanced search. And then you'll see a lot larger images, better quality there. Look, this is 1200 by 1600. That's going to be plenty big for your page. But that image that you use is just not large enough quality to work with. Okay, so I'd replace that image. Okay. And then with your title, I feel like this isn't fitting right here. And maybe it's because you don't have it anywhere else in the whole piece, but you do have the sans serif font and another sans serif font, and this is a different sans serif font. So you kind of have a whole bunch of fonts here. I need you to pick 1, 2, 3 at the most fonts and stick with those. So if you want to add a scripty font in there, you can add a scripty font there, but then find another way to incorporate that somewhere in the piece to unify it, because right now this is feeling a little out of place. That makes sense. For mine, I didn't do a scripty font here. And I didn't include it anywhere except for in the quotes, but they're still in there to kind of create that quote scripty look, but I did include it somewhere else. And then I worked with a sans serif font. So this is the same font. This font, and this font are all the same fonts. They're just different versions of this font. So like sans serif, let me go back to this, sorry. Sans serif Pro, bold. And then if I click here, this is Sans Serif Pro Extra Light Italic, Sans Serif Pro Regular. Okay, so I use the same sans serif font, but the fun thing about sans serif font is you can actually add contrast with that. So if you're trying to kind of create some contrast, pick a sans serif font that has multiple options in it, okay? Is what I would recommend doing. And then find a way to make your title a little bit more interesting. And you're missing a space right here between if and you. But how can you make this a little bit more interesting? Can you make even if you a little smaller and then can't see him a little bit bigger? Can you contrast with categories? You know, if you Google InDesign Magazine, I want you to go through and look at the titles and look what people do for their titles. How do they make their titles a little bit more interesting with their typography? Okay, and I just typed in InDesign Magazine spread and see how people are playing around with their titles and making them interesting with contrast and size. That's what I would recommend doing. This is what I did with mine. And I talk about how I did that in my video. If you want to watch that too, that can give you some advice. And I like that you separated your paragraph. Careful too with quotes. You want to separate those so it'll look similar to this. And you have the different quotes. They'll also look like new paragraphs. So you'll need to go in there and have a space after too to separate them. Also, this image, do you see? It's a darling image. I love it. But do you see how he's facing out of the frame? I'd either flip him so he's facing into the frame, or I'd move him over here in this corner, and you can move this one over in this corner here. You could switch these two spots. That's fine. Or if it kind of goes with the article, you can move this one over here and this one over here and the text over there. But see how he's facing out of the frame? You want him to face into the frame, lead you into the frame. And you can flip images by just clicking on them. So I clicked on this image, and right here is flipping. Okay, so that's the other option. All right. And then was he really listening? I feel like this is a subtitle, so this should probably go with this down here. Make sure your subtitles are grouped with the text that goes below it, okay? And not, because this isn't leading me into any content right below. Then be careful on your text wraps that your image isn't invading too much, that you're creating widows there. See, there's a widow, there's a widow. It's covering too much of the column. You never want it to invade more than a third of your column. So for example, I have mine here. See how it only invades a third of the column there? And the same with my circle text wrap. I had to bring it down below so it wouldn't invade more than a third on either side. So you'll need to probably make this image smaller, or for your text wrap. Yeah, there's no or. You'll just need to make it smaller, or find another image that will work for wrapping around it, so that it's not covering up too much space, okay? Watch for widows. Widows are words on a line by itself. I guess you did use your script font down here again. So yeah, but you still have too many fonts going on. Just pick 2 or 3 fonts at the most, okay? I'm fine since you're adding the script down here. It just was feeling a little out of place here. Maybe even putting just the name underneath here, then it'll feel grouped at least, okay? But again, avoid widows, a word on a line by itself. And in the first one, I talk about how to get rid of those widows, okay? Let me know if you have any questions, Jill, but this is off to a great start. If you want to work on it and send it over again through email, I'd be happy to look at it again, okay? Okay, Kathleen. Sorry, I'm going to look at everything first. Okay. All right. So you have great unity with your colors and your images. They all just look great together. So good job on that and making everything look unified. It looks really nice. Your body copy is really feeling too large. It's kind of invading the space. I'd bring it down to a 10 point so that your copy, it doesn't look overwhelming. Do you see the difference that makes? How my copy is only 10 point and it looks, the images stand out more than the text. Right now your text is really popping a lot more than the other elements, especially like on this page and this page. So make your copy a little smaller. And since you're continuing to read on page 4, you have more to the article, so that shouldn't be a problem, okay? I like this first image. I like your bold contrast in your title. It's definitely grabbing my attention. I would keep your leading consistent so that this space is the same here too. So I actually would probably bring believing, obey, and enduring a little bit closer together. Not too much so that your descenders and ascenders are barely touching. You don't want that to create tension. And then bring the title down, the name down just a little bit, President Thomas S. Monson, just down a little bit. Watch for widows. I talk about in the first critique how to get rid of your widows if you have them. And maybe when you resize your text, your widows will be gone. We'll see. But great consistency on your copy. I like that you have a space between each paragraph. That separates the paragraph, makes it easy to read. Your subtitles all look consistent. That's a great job. But right where you have this subtitle, that's ideally how you want to do the other subtitles. See how this subtitle you have the text too close to it. There's not a space after. And this one the same way. Set your subtitle up how it's the same as believe so that there's that space but before you get to the next subtitle, okay? Because this is feeling like it's trapped in there and trapped in here. You need the extra space. Hopefully that makes sense. And then there's a random space here. Either your text box doesn't go all the way up, or you just have an extra enter there. So I just take it out, the harder turn there, so there's not that weird space there. Watch for widows right here too. You never want your quote to invade more than a third of your box. So your text wrap should never have the content invading a third of it. So see how this is creating now all these stacked words. This is going to make it very hard on the reader. Make sure your quote ends about right here. and right here. So let me show you an example. I did my quote here. See how it only comes into about here. Now, granted, I don't have anything on the other side, but that's what I had to do in order to avoid, you know, it taking up too much space. If I put this right in the middle here, it would take up too much space. And same here, like I brought this down to the bottom because this circle, if I put this in the middle, it would invade too much of my column and it doesn't look very nice. So I brought it down to the bottom so that it's only invading a third of my column. Okay, so this is just taking up too much space here. So just you can make your quote box a little smaller so that it's just in this space, and that's fine. And then make the text inside of it a little smaller and make sure it doesn't touch the edge there. See how it's touching the edge? Give it plenty of space. This space you have here is perfect. Give that same space on the bottom and the top so that it has consistent spacing all the way around and it's not creating tension. This right now is creating tension. It's a tangent. And then the text is too close to the box. It's creating tension as well. If you just highlight the box or select the box and go Window, Text Wrap, it'll pull up this here and then just increase the padding there. And see how it increases the space in between there? That helps give it space so it doesn't have that tension there. Okay. And then another widow there. I'm not sure what this box is right here. What's this doing? I would get rid of this box, this line right here. It's creating barrier. It's kind of trapping this text in there. I'm not sure why it's doing that. So get rid of that box. And get rid of your widow right there. A widow is a word on a line. I'm sorry, not widow, hyphen. And so if you highlight that and you go into InDesign, so highlight where you have your hyphen, go to InDesign, go to the paragraph tab and uncheck the hyphenate button. That'll get rid of the hyphen. I think that's it. Everything else looks really good. Very good, very consistent. You know what though? This image, I just realized, she's looking out of the frame. I guess the spread would be this way. So she's facing into the frame. That's good. And then she's kind of looking up to the text. Okay, I didn't realize this was part of the spread. So this would be on this side. So she's still looking into the frame. You're good there. Okay, it looks good. Thanks, Kim. Okay, like a broken vessel. Elder Holland. I love this talk. Okay, let me look at each one real quick. Okay, so we've got great color scheme going on here, Miriam. I love the colors you chose, and the image looks good. I love this broken vase. There's this random line here. Is that supposed to be there? I don't know what that line is. I would go in there and figure out what that line is. It could just be a stroke on something. So if you go in and you start clicking on just shapes or even text box, see if there's a stroke right here, a black stroke. And then, or right here, and you can click none, okay, and get rid of that stroke, whatever that line is right there. I like the font that you used on there, that it looks broken. That was a nice touch. It really fits your magazine spread. The text is a nice size, great contrast with the typography. This first page looks nice except for that weird line, so just get rid of that and you'll be good. You have a widow there, and and it's a hard return. It looks like, you know, if you just take away this enter right there, you'll get rid of, because it looks like you accidentally hit enter or something right there, and that'll get rid of that widow. But you do have a widow right here too. And in the first critique, I talk about some ways to get rid of your widows. So you can watch that, the first critique I did at the beginning of the video, and that can help you get rid of that widow. Sorry, excuse me. Great text wrap. That looks nice, except right there, it's a little bit of a tangent. See how it's touching the text there? A little too much of a tangent. Give it some space there so it's not touching the edge of the brick, and you'll be good. This looks good, good. This is, maybe I would make the quote box just a little smaller. It's invading over half. My rule of that is if the object is invading half of the column, it's kind of more stacking the text and making it not as, the flow not as nice. So just make sure, maybe bring it in a little bit tighter so it's not invading more than half of the box, okay? And watch out for hyphens. You have a hyphen there. Dashes are fine, but hyphens are not. So if you click on your text box, Control A on a PC, Command A on a Mac, and you highlight the whole thing, come to this paragraph option here, uncheck the hyphenate button. So the hyphen button will be checked. Uncheck that. That'll get rid of all your hyphens, okay? Okay. This quote not only is invading more than half of it, it's invading the whole thing. So here's the problem with this, having the quote invade everything, is you come in and you're reading, God's love is there for you whenever, whether or not you, and then do I trust in God, hold on to his love? Do I feel you deserve, or do I go up here? Not you, example, if. So there's like 3 areas you can keep reading, and it can confuse the audience member, especially when it's in the middle of a sentence or a paragraph and you have it on both accounts. Like here, do I read down here? Do I read in here? So never have content cut a paragraph in half. It needs to, the text needs to either flow around it, or you need to find a better location for this. So I had a quote that was kind of large, I felt like, for mine that I did. And so instead of having it invade right in the middle of the paragraph, I put it up in the top with an image so that the text is flowing around it, but it's not interfering with a middle of the paragraph, so that you come down to the bottom and you automatically want to go over here instead of it cutting it into the middle. And the same here, like I had my text flow around it. Same here, you know, instead of, and sometimes when you're working with bigger content, it may be better just to put it at the bottom or at the top, or to make it more portrait, like up and down, instead of going straight through the middle. So that needs to be cleaned up a little bit there. Are those your subtitles? Right here. So I notice you only have subtitles 1, 2, this one kind of, but you don't really have any subtitles on this page. So I would maybe get rid of a subtitle here and put it over here and have, it kind of looks like it's the start of the paragraph, making them big. You don't want it, your subtitle to be that long. Like a subtitle, I do have one that's 2-line, but for the most part, it's just like a little bit about this section, like keeping our covenants in holiness. But this is a whole paragraph. It's not taking from a paragraph. It's just kind of summarizing the whole thing. So that's what I would do for your subtitles, and having, instead of having this long sentence be a subtitle, and then try and find a way to have it on this page and at this page. You could have it on the first page too, but it's not necessary as long as you have it here and here. And then have it kind of be like your author here, to add some unity for that author page, is to have that same kind of subtitle, okay? So that's my advice there. Let me know if you have any questions on that, okay, Miriam? Okay, down to 2. Jarrett? Okay. I love to give you advice. Okay, let me look at all pages first. I'm a person that I like to see all my players on the field first. Okay. All right. So Jarrett, I know you mentioned that you're having a little hard time with computer savviness. So I'm not going to do it in this video because we're just doing critiques, but watch in iLearn. Go in there. Let me go to a new window. But in iLearn, in my teacher notes, for your class. Watch that video I put in there. I kind of go over text wrap with you and stuff like that to kind of help you and give you advice on that, on how to do that. So this video right under week 6, if you watch that, I did this with you guys. I made a magazine spread and I kind of talk about how to do certain things like text wraps in there and stuff like that. So watch that video. That will be helpful for you. And also watch useful videos in week 5. That will help you out too, and doing some more of the technical stuff. If you're still struggling and you need one-on-one attention, set up an appointment with a tutor. Definitely, these tutors are there to kind of help you and walk you through things. So if you're going to go under the Welcome tab and hit tutoring, you can sign up for a tutor there and set up an appointment, okay? So let me go ahead and give you some advice on this. I like that you're keeping your titles very consistent and your body copy consistent on all pages. That looks really nice. You brought the color scheme throughout the pages and had unity there. So that's great job there. You need to have 2 images that you took yourself. I know this is an image from the internet. I've seen this image actually a lot over the internet. So find 2 images that you've taken yourself. And this was one that you can definitely go in there and recreate, or at least have like a friend, a roommate, a spouse, a family member help you recreate this and take a picture of it, okay? Color schemes. So you have 2 really bold colors that are competing with each other and this orange that there's like no real focal point or direction. So when you're picking out colors, pick a color that's going to be bold and a pop of color, and then have subtle colors there. So my pink is what I picked as my bold color to pop, and you see it throughout the piece. And then the rest is kind of more of a sage green and a light yellow and a light pink going together, but they're more subtle. So that's what you want to do with your color schemes, is pick those type of colors. Sometimes what helps me is going to Google and typing in, I'm at Google Images right here, and I type in color schemes. Whoops. Helps if I write the C in there. But I type in color schemes, and then Google has like these nice little swatches of color schemes that you can pick from, where they have like a bold color, a more subtle color to work with. But you go through this, find a color scheme you like, right? Grab that color scheme and save that image on your desktop, or just drag and pull it onto your desktop, and then bring it into InDesign. So you have your project, right? I like to just drag and drop. You can also file place, but bring it in here, drag it, trace it out, and then you have a color scheme to work with. And then what I do is, this is so similar to the colors I actually have. I picked up my colors from my images that I took right here of the flowers, but so crazy how, you know, these colors go together. Like you see color schemes in them. But anyways, you can click on shapes then, and your eyedropper tool will be right underneath the colors theme tool. So you'll see this tool. If you click, pull, hold, you'll see your eyedropper tool right underneath, right? And so I have this shape selected. Now I just click on a color and I eyedrop it, and it changes that color. I'll make sure you have your swatch on top, okay? So you go through, you have a color, you just eyedrop it. Now that color is so similar that it didn't really change. Let me just do this color and pick a different color. So anyways, there. See, I eyedropped that color and it changed. Or, you know, just go through and eyedrop the colors, and then once you're done, then delete that. So that can help you find a better color scheme. Delete the color scheme once you're done with that, okay? To work with, because your color scheme is just, there's so many big, bold, bright colors that there's nothing, like even when you're working with bold colors, see how they've done it? They have the contrast with the white still and black. So you don't want to try and like have your whole thing covered with these bold colors. I hope that makes sense. And then find a way to add interest to your title. So again, I typed in InDesign magazine spread in Google Images, And you can go through and see how people are displaying titles, how they're doing different things with their titles. I did this with my title, is I chose contrasting fonts with script. And you don't have to do this, but I'm just showing you, like, there's a way that you can add interest to your title so it's not all the same weight. So feel inspired from things around you, okay? So hopefully that can help you kind of come up with some creative ideas. And then look at how they're displaying their magazine. This is something that you could create in InDesign easily by just adding an image to the whole background. Add a white box behind your text. You know, there's tons of different ways to lay out so that you're not doing everything traditional center aligned. Like I center align my image. I have my title here. And notice too, you have everything left aligned here, and the image is like the only thing that's center aligned. You always need to have something aligned with something else. So keep that in mind, that if you're going to have this center aligned, you need something else center aligned too as well, or have it right aligned or left aligned, okay? Avoid widows. And in the first critique that I did at the beginning of this video, sorry, I have the hiccups all of a sudden. I talk about how to get rid of these widows, but a widow is a word on a line by itself. And then be careful too, where you have this color and then the text right up next to it, that's a tangent. You want to give the text either some space or bring this color out a little bit more, but see how it's touching the edge here, and it's too close to the edge in some places. That is called a tangent, and it's creating this tension, and you want to avoid that, okay? So go in there and clean up that. What would be fun, see you have this nice sans serif here, is using that same sans serif in your title too, adding contrast there, okay? And then again, I go over text wraps and kind of how to do quote boxes with you in the video. So I would recommend, keeping your columns going, but then creating a text box around this, because you do need a wrap. Oh, you have a text wrap there. Then you know what, you can either have columns and turn this into a quote box, because you do need a quote box in there. And again, look at some examples of how people do quote box. Here's an example of a quote box, putting the prophet's picture, or an apostle, or he's a prophet. He was a prophet. Anyways, putting an image in there, and then putting of the person that's quoting it. So let me see. I don't know who was quoting. You could put an image in there, quoting yours, and then a quote there. Or here's another example of a quote box right here, just having a nice shape and then putting the text inside there. That's a good example. So here's another example of a quote box right here. So that's some ideas on how you can do your quote box there. I would avoid this red though. And again, we're doing really bold colors all together. And so it's making it hard to know what my focal point is, what I'm concentrating on when you have so many bold colors competing against each other. Remove your numbers from in here, okay? And then make sure again that your text isn't too close to the edge of the text wrap. And you can avoid that by just clicking where you're adding the text wrap, and then go Window, Text Wrap, and then increasing your padding right here. See, every time I press that, it increases some space in between, so it's not too close to the edge. Okay? All right, so that's some advice. If you want to play around with that and you want me to look at it again, email it over and I'd be happy to look at it again. And again, if you need somebody to kind of help you with your text wrap or things like that, definitely set up an appointment with our tutors. That's what they're there for. Or watch my video. It definitely helps you out with that, okay? All right, Allison. Allison, I love your title. This is a very fun, interesting title. This is definitely kind of similar to what I'm doing, like with the script. I love when you overlap with script, because that's sometimes what you have to do, because script has so many ascenders and descenders, but you have some great diagonal alignment here. So good job with that. Love the title. It looks interesting. And I love how the light is kind of going to the title. Great color schemes. here. They look great, the colors all together and the images. Nice job there. And you have great consistent copy with the space between each paragraph. Looks really nice. So here's a couple of things that I suggest. Watch for hyphens, widows, and orphans. You have all of those right now. So a widow is a word on a line by itself. And in the first video, I talk about how to avoid widows, what you can do to get rid of your widows. Hyphens, if you just highlight the whole thing, I kind of talk about this in not the first video, the first critique that I did in this video. You can go back to that. But hyphens, if you highlight the whole text, you come to the paragraph, you'll have this button checked, hyphenate button, uncheck it. And that'll get rid of your hyphens. And when you get rid of your hyphens, some of these widows might disappear, or you might get more widows, depending. But then you can get rid of them how I showed in the first critique, okay? And then orphans. Orphans are a line, either the end of a paragraph or the beginning of a paragraph by itself, where it comes from a different column. So this paragraph here, this orphan comes from that. So it needs to be grouped together with that, or bring this down to the next paragraph. In fact, you have this line here. You can balance out the column by making this a little smaller and bringing that column down to the bottom. Get rid of those random numbers in there. Unfortunately, when we copy and paste from LDS.org, you get those random numbers. So I'd find the last number you see, which looks like it's 14, and just count down. So get rid of 14, 13, 12, 11, look for 10 in there, 10, 9. That's how I do it, because I have to still go in there. I have a couple more to get rid of in this beginning page, like 4, 3, but I've been counting down. So I make sure to get rid of all the numbers. Okay, so another orphan right there. So just go in, get rid of widows, orphans, and hyphens. And then this is a big no-no with text wrap. See how it cuts off the middle of a sentence there? And you have some random words over here. This makes it very hard on the reader to go, let me share with, over the head, you a, is it go here? No, it goes personal experience. Yeah. So never have it cut in the middle of a sentence. So what I would do is I'd increase the padding here so that it goes over on this side, or it just stays over there. So for example, I'm kind of play with this a little. So let's say I'm trying to do, see how this is cutting right into the middle of the sentence here? So you either need to maneuver it and maybe bring it down some, so this whole line goes straight across and it just goes to the side, or you can click on this, go window text wrap, pull up your text wrap option, and increase the padding here until it doesn't do that. And I mean, this isn't ever going to work because it's always going to cut in the middle because of the shape. So I would have to strategically just move it a little bit. But oh, here's kind of what, like yours, where it has like one word over there. I'll just keep increasing the padding until it disappears. And sometimes you just have to maneuver. Sometimes it looks like you photoshopped this image. Sometimes you just have to make sure this doesn't affect, I don't know, you can't really, I'm trying to do this without being too advanced, but what I would do is I just probably just move it over just a little bit so it goes on this side, and it's not cutting into the middle of the sentence there, okay? And then continue on page number, that needs to be underneath the paragraph, not over here. So I would just maneuver that, or even you could put that, yeah, just put it down here. Okay, so just clean up this text wrap a little bit. If you're struggling with it, just let me know. I can help you out with that, okay? All right, but Allison, this looks so nice. Great job on it. That's it. All right, guys. I know this is hard, But I think you guys are doing a fabulous job. You're working so hard. I appreciate it. If you need additional help, set up an appointment with the tutor. I have like 2 more slots open tomorrow too. You can set up an appointment with me. First come, first serve. Fortunately, it can't go longer tomorrow night because I have some things that I have to do with my husband and his scouts. But anyways, let me know if you need help. You're doing great. Good job.